little intro. And welcome to the Mesilla Valley News Podcast. It is time for some sports. And we are out here, of course, on the patio at the Amador Live Eatery and Entertainment District because, we just like to sit out on the patio and talk a little bit of sports for sure. And I got to tell you this, we were a little bit worried about the weather for today because it was somewhat Eeyore-ish, a little bit on the cloudy side. Might even thought we'd get some rain, but I will tell you this right now. In the last 10 to 15 minutes, the clouds have gone away. The blue skies are out. The sun is right over here to our right, as you can tell. And we are ready to be talking some sports. And, of course, we want to go over a few things that were going on over this past weekend for sure. Talking about some high school football. Hobbs, unfortunately, did defeat Las Cruces this past week. That was a score of 44-28 in the school's district opener. And so that happened at the Field of Dreams. The two teams combined, though, for more than 300 yards of offense the first half alone. And the undefeated Hobbs averaged, I think, more than 50 points per game. Had only played one game decided by 10 or fewer points. But Las Cruces takes on Alamogordo at home this Friday. Hobbs will head over to take Centennial on in Hobbs. And Mayfield knocked off Deming 28-27 in a pretty close game there. In fact, Deming, in its last non-district game of the season, Mayfield returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown and led 14-12 at the half, and then went on to just score more points, 28-27 victory in that close one. The Trojans will open up their district play at Goddard this coming week. And after picking up the first win of the season against Hawaii, New Mexico State football team suffered what could be considered a devastating loss to FIU. It was not a pretty game, and we're going to be honest about that. But, they ended up losing to the FIU Panthers. And FIU, of course, is a future Conference USA opponent. We're going to be seeing them a lot more when we get into Conference USA starting next season. But, of course, the Aggies do have a bye week this week. And then, of course, we welcome UNM in a couple of weeks here to Aggie Memorial Stadium, and that'll be a lot of fun. And Rob Bart's team, the NMSU soccer team, I got to tell you, we had him as a guest in our earlier podcast earlier this season, and his team is continuing to roll. Of course, they had a 4-0 victory on Friday night. The NM State women's soccer team looking for their second consecutive conference win, and that match was very physical. 28 total fouls were called, 15 on NM State and 18 on ACU. Two players and an Abilene Christian assistant coach received yellow cards. So it was a pretty contentious game, but the Aggies were able to outlast the Wildcats on a low-scoring battle, needing just one goal to claim the 1-0 victory. So, like I said, Rob Bartz and his team are on a roll. The Aggies have one more home game next Friday against first-place Southern Utah. Kickoff for that is set for 7 p.m. at the soccer complex on the NMSU campus. And, of course, the Aggies will then hit the road for their final 4 games of the regular season before heading to Seattle for the WAC tournament. So, Rob Bartz definitely has his team rolling right there. But right now, of course, we want to welcome in our guest today, and kind of joking around with our friend Joey Hernandez, saying that we were going to do a whole wrestling podcast today, and it turns out we're doing a whole wrestling podcast today as we welcome in Coach Marks from Las Cruces High School, and you are coaching the Bulldogs.
Yes, been coaching there for going on my 30th year now. So
wow, so
30 years of coaching wrestling.
30 years of coaching wrestling. Do you have any second generation wrestlers that are coming through?
I might even have a third coming right now.
Really?
So,
wow.
Yeah, it's you've coached my dad, you coached my grandpa. It's like, quit telling me that.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to tell you right now, you can look at Coach Marks right here. It doesn't look a day over 40.
I'll take that.
35.
Take that. Thank you, Gino.
No, so wow, that's a long time coaching wrestling. So I'm sure you've gone through a lot of great wrestlers and a lot of great people coming through your system.
Yeah. We've been blessed at Cruces over the years. I've had the same assistant and Coach Bravo for that whole time.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, he's been with me the 30 years. In fact, he was there before I even got there. And so between the two of us, we've seen a lot of kids, and it's nice going around town and seeing the successes of people that have been in your program. just the other day, someone's like, "Hey, I was at the emergency room at the hospital, and one of your wrestlers was the doctor," you know, and stuff like that.
That's good stuff to hear.
Yeah,
That's good.
it is. It's great to hear, and just see the kids that have the success over the years, and to just stop and visit with them.
Yeah, and we were talking beforehand, and I said my only wrestling story I have, because normally I have stories for just about everything, but my only wrestling story I have is in middle school, where we would do 2 weeks. We were doing, a week or 2 weeks on different sports, and we got to our wrestling a couple of weeks. And I did kind of enjoy it. I was a big kid. I've always been a big kid. I think I was about 140 in mid school. And they said, "Hey, do you want to talk to the wrestling coach at Gallup High?" And I went, "Nah, I don't think I'm coordinated enough to go ahead and get that done." And then you said you graduated Gallup High.
Yes, I was a few years ahead of you. So
yeah, yep. So that was interesting. So at the same time that they asked me to talk with the coach, I think you were going to Gallup High.
Yeah, I was.
You were a wrestler there?
I was a wrestler there at the high school. I played football and wrestled at Gallup. We were pretty successful in the football and wrestling. We had some pretty successful kids. Unfortunately, I had the injury bug. I broken bones 2 years in a row, right about the time that the state tournament was coming around. So I think that's part of what fueled my desire to keep coaching.
Okay.
I got away from it for a while when I came to NMSU, but I missed it. You wake up dreaming about the sport, and I think that's what fueled my fire to come back and start coaching.
I understand that, because I think everybody has those dreams about something or other, or nightmares sometimes when it comes down to it. I'm sure it's the same way that I felt about being in front of the microphone. I took a couple of years off and then just felt like I had to get back in, because you get that bug on whatever it is, and you just got to keep going for it.
Yeah, that's for sure. And that's what we try to preach that to all the kids too, is find a passion, find something you're good at, and pursue it. And you'll find success.
Whether it's wrestling or academics or something else like that. Like you said, you were mentioning that it's really good to hear somebody say, yeah, my doctor, you coached him. Or like you said, you've had several successes with people moving on to the next level in wrestling and other sports.
Yep. Yes, we have. With coaching at Cruces, I've coached wrestling the full 30 years. And for over 20 years, Coach Bravo and I worked together also as the freshman football coaches. So we'd get the kids when they first came into the Bulldog program, and it was really good to see the kids and help mold them into that successful program as well. And that's part of what kind of attributed to the success of wrestling is we'd really encourage the kids to try more than one sport. And after football, we'd encourage them to come out for wrestling. And a lot of them found a passion in a sport that honestly a lot of people don't know about. I grew up in Iowa, and you knew wrestling. Third grade, you were already going, when you're 3 years old, 4 years old, you were already going to your first wrestling tournament. And here, we get the kids when they're freshmen, and we're teaching them about the sport. They don't even know how to keep score. And so to have that success, I think is really a testament to the program, to our assistant coaches that we've had throughout the years. It's amazing.
Well, let's be honest. When a lot of people think wrestling, and I'm sure maybe some kids come into you and says, "When do I learn the steeple hold?"
That's it. They're already looking for the chairs. They want, where's the chairs?
I don't see the steel chairs. How am I supposed to win this match? No. Because wrestling is very actually complex. It's very technical in a lot of the things that you do. When you watch wrestling and you see those kids on the mat, especially when you get up into those higher levels of NCAA wrestling and Olympic wrestling, you start looking for some of the things. I actually like watching Olympic wrestling, because the announcers that they have are usually pretty good, and they'll start explaining certain things that you have to watch out for, and you're going like, I never would have even thought about any of that.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. Once you start understanding the sport, it's super enjoyable. And for the kids, that's what we tell them too. For every move, there's a counter. Mm-hmm. There's not one move that always works. There's always a defense to it, and so you have to learn to just react. You can't. It's not like you can have a game plan, but you need to know that your game plan is going to change by the second in that match. Anything can happen, and you have to be able to react to it and face adversity constantly throughout the match. So
I mean, you hear a lot of athletes talk about the speed of the game when they go up to new levels like that. when you talk about the speed of the game for basketball or football or even volleyball and other sports like that. I can only imagine that the speed of wrestling, how it picks up and how quickly you have to recognize something and make those decisions is just got to be amazing when you start getting up into those higher levels.
Oh yeah, it is. And that's what, we try to model that at practice with a lot of drilling and situations. We'll have a coach that just yells out a move that everyone has to try, but how each kid counters it could be different. And so we do that. We call them like 30-second goes, where you just go all out for 30 seconds and see what happens. And it really helps the kids prepare. And that aspect with wrestling, it is such a different sport, because I think that's why I kind of gravitated to it too. Is I was a smaller stature, 105, 112 pound freshman, and football's a love of mine. But the reality is, you're not going to be a football player at the next level.
You're not going to be a football player at 5'6", 112 pounds.
There's only so many Sproles out there, that can be 5'6" and be playing in the pros.
A favorite of mine during my fantasy football leagues at that time. And by the way, we'll get to our fantasy football league a little bit later on, and we'll let Kelly gloat a little bit more. But you mentioned that you encourage your athletes to actually try other sports on there. Do you find that the other sports help out wrestling and vice versa as far as that goes?
It's been a philosophy I've had since I first started coaching. I really think every kid when they come to high school should try as many sports as they can. There'll be a time when you're a junior or senior, if you've got D1 programs knocking on your door for a sport, maybe it's time to specialize. But before then, I encourage it. And the neat thing was, early on, when we started coaching, Coach Potter was here at Cruces High, and he was a former wrestling coach, and he's the one that encouraged Coach Bravo and I to coach wrestling or coach freshman football, because he knew we were the wrestling coaches. And he came to us and said, I need wrestlers to play football.
Oh, wow.
And he says, I coached wrestling. I know how hard they work, and I know it's an individual sport. So, I have confidence in a wrestler that's used to being out there by themselves. Just imagine how much more confidence that wrestler has when he's a lineman with two people on both sides, people on both sides of him,
exactly.
and blocking. He's got help.
How the other players feel about that same person on there. That's actually weird, because that was actually going to be my next question. Do you get pushback sometimes from other coaches? Because I do know some coaches have that philosophy, like, you've got to concentrate on this one sport and it's mine. Yeah.
And, that's successful coaches have successful attitudes, and everyone has a different philosophy, and that happens. You run into it, but at the same time, especially now in Cruces, I think it's a big deal with us having 4 high schools.
Yeah.
We're seeing the effects of it. We can be honest. It's, if we had 3 high schools, we'd still be powerhouses. But right now, our talent pool has been split across the city more. And I think it's more important now than ever that the high school coaches share their athletes and work at that. And I think in my experience, the focusing on one, there's more risk of overtraining, like specialization injuries and stuff like that. Each sport has its advantage. And, I'm not going to lie, I look for the football players. Yeah. But I'm also looking for the cross country runner. Because they have the stamina that my cross country runners are making it through practice condition wise, while my football players aren't. But my football players are making it through strength wise, while the cross country runners might be lacking there. And I think that's where wrestling combines both. We work on a lot of the strength training and the conditioning, which just turns them into a better athlete. And
I'm just going through my mind when you think about what the wrestler is doing in there. To be big and strong and have all that strength is there. But if you're gassed after a few minutes, it's going to be one of those things where you're not going to do good if you're not able to think, or your body's not able to react.
Yeah, exactly. You
stamina there.
You become a lot weaker mentally and physically when you're tired.
Yeah,
and so that helps. And
trust me, when that 4 a.m. alarm goes off for me to get up for the morning show, I definitely understand that one.
Yeah, and that's with wrestling. It's just so different too, because it's 6 minutes. 3 2-minute periods, and you get kids like, timeout. It's like, oh no, there's no timeout.
There's no timeout. No.
There's no timeout. Keep going. It's like, it's only how much longer? It's like, you've been wrestling for 30 seconds, And so we, of course, that's what we try to get them so they're prepared for that for the matches. But when they do that, I tell the kids, you spend the time in the room and then you go back to football. And it makes it that much easier. You're going to be that athlete that stands out in the individual drills because you're not taking a break. You're not bent over, gasping for air. You're
exactly. You're not going to be that athlete that is in the third and fourth quarter with their hands on their knees.
Yeah, exactly. And that's mental there too. And along that line, I know we're focusing on that, but on the boys' side, but to mention, we have just started girls wrestling too.
Yeah, don't worry. I was going to get into that.
Yeah.
I was going to get into that because I had no idea that we actually had girls wrestling until, Lindsay called me up and said, hey, we're getting Coach Marks on. He's the, boys and girls wrestling coach. And I said, girls wrestling?
Yeah, it's new for New Mexico. We're going into our 4th year now, or this will be the 5th season. And, it's been around the country in a few states here and there. Texas has had it for quite a long time, but the states are gradually bringing it in. And for some reason at Cruces Hight, in the 30 years, we've almost always had a girl on the team.
Really?
But up until 4 years ago, they just had to wrestle the boys.
Oh, okay.
So now that it's officially a sanctioned sport for the girls do get to wrestle strictly the girls. And that's nice. And for both the boys and girls, wrestling, for people who aren't as familiar with it, it's divided into weight classes. So the other nice thing about wrestling is you're competing against someone your weight. Yeah. So it's not like the football player that's going up against someone 200 pounds heavier.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to get the 150-pound guy that's going up, a 250-pound lineman or something else.
Exactly.
Like that. Or even to get up into collegiate sports, you're not going to get those, 210, 220-pound linemen going up those 300-pound linemen that you get in the Power 5 or anything else.
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
So you go by weight class, and which is something that is nice because even like in boxing, other that go by weight classes, you're going to be facing someone that is in your class. You're not going to get those big guys going up against the small guys.
And I think that gives your athletes, your kids that just have a competitive nature, a fairer chance when they're out for wrestling. I have a boy example and a girl example. Years ago, we had a kid, Joseph Benavides. He was 5'3", 106 pounds, and he was sure he was the best running back in the state. And he was right behind Franklin Hamilton. That was a D1 athlete, and a big kid. And he still jokes with us. In fact, I talked to him yesterday. He's like, I tell Franklin all the time, I still should have been the starting running back. But then he came to wrestling and found out he can compete against 106 pounders that are the same size. He was a state champ for us. Then, he went on to fight in the UFC and had a very successful career there. On the girls' side, we had a girl just a couple of years ago that she was a great athlete. And she played volleyball and softball, but she was smaller. So 100 pounds. Yeah. And she came out for wrestling and didn't know a thing. And by her second year, she was a state champ for us. Wow. Now unfortunately, last year she had hurt her knee right before the end of the season. So we sat her out. So she didn't get a chance to compete at state, but she did sign a letter to wrestling college. So now she's at Chadron State up in Nebraska.
So she had her letter of intent.
She had her letter of intent and stuff. So we, that was more important than trying to finish out her senior year for us. So
no, absolutely.
So I'm glad she's up there and she's enjoying it right now. And that's one thing with the girls, with it being such a new sport, it's being added at the colleges like exponentially. So the number of scholarship opportunities available for girls in women's wrestling at the college level is just phenomenal right now. You can find a place if you want to wrestle. There's someone that'll take you.
Yeah. What's your participation rate? I mean, do you get a lot of girls coming out for the wrestling team?
It's been under our 4th year. The first year we had about 3 or 4 girls. Second year went to 10. Last year we were up about 12 that were consistent. We'll get girls that come out and try it, and I encourage that. And if you don't like it, I kind of keep an open room at the beginning of the season. But this year, with me, I encourage multi-sports. So I have a lot of them that are doing cross country and soccer right now, but preseason right now, we've had up to 20 girls in the room.
Wow.
So we're looking forward to a season where we have phenomenal numbers on the girls' side. There's 12 weight classes that we have to fill. So we'll have a full varsity team and some extras.
Wow,
Where we had a couple of holes last year where we didn't fill a complete team, but we're getting there, and I think we will this year.
I think that's pretty darn awesome. So ladies, women's wrestling is available at and let me ask you this: are all the schools?
Yes, all 4 local high schools have women's wrestling programs, and I do encourage it. I know a lot of times, especially with parents wondering, like, my daughter wrestling and stuff, but it's great for self-esteem, for confidence, being able to defend yourself, and just the attitude change that you see in these young women when they come out on the mat and they go through a practice is amazing. And at Cruces, each school runs it a little different. When we first started at Cruces, I sat the girls down and I said, you have an option. We will have your own separate practice, or you can be in the wrestling room with the boys and we all practice at the same time. And the girls that I had said, we want to be in the room the same time as the boys because we like that intensity and just the energy that we have. So we've always wrestled at the same time in the room, and it's been successful for us.
Well, you mentioned before that you've always had at least one girl on the team anyway.
Yeah. So and the boys are great with it. They're respectful. That's the other thing I kind of pride myself on, and our coaching staff. I have a couple other assistants. Jimmy Nevadis the third, who is a 3-time state champ from Mayfield. He's one of my assistants. And Adrian Carillon, that's also a football coach at Cruces. He's a former wrestler of ours that was a state placer. They come in and I tell them, we need to have an atmosphere of respect in here, and everyone in here works just as hard. So we don't have a senior freshman attitude or a varsity C team attitude. We have, you are a wrestler.
Nice.
And if you're in this room, you're a wrestler. We all work hard and we all respect each other, male, female, whatever it is. And we, had a lot of comments from parents like, yeah, just the way your team interacts is great. And another thing you talked about mid-school wrestling, the district here, a few years ago, they got rid of the wrestling at the 8th grade level. And because it's an individual sport, 8th graders in Las Cruces can wrestle at their high school.
Oh, really?
So it has to be in their attendance zone. And we had a couple 8th graders last year that came in, and that was the biggest compliment I think I had. And I told my seniors and juniors and stuff, I had a mom that came up to me and said, the way your juniors and seniors treated my 8th grade son, it was amazing.
Oh, that's cool.
They take him under his wing. We have him coach him up at the JV tournaments and encourage them. And it's just a great atmosphere.
Well, I think that is a testament to what some of the extracurricular activities and particularly sports can do for a student in general. And I mean, just in general, what all of the programs do, it's going to be great for a student. It's going to teach them a lot of lessons on how to treat people and how to respect people. And now you'll have to excuse me because I chuckled and laughed just a while ago when you were speaking about the girls. And that's because I just thought in my mind that my sister would have been an excellent wrestler in high school. Not necessarily because she ended up being like about 5'10", and let's just say that she had a certain attitude.
Oh yeah, the attitude
that
helps.
That would have. I think you would have been proud to have her on your team in that sense because she's been known to. I'll put it this way. Because and I speak respectfully of my sister because she passed a couple of years ago.
Oh, sorry.
But no, it's okay. But I say that because a lot of the older brothers will say, keep your hands off my sister, or all this other stuff like that. When she got married, her husband and I had a talk, and I said, "Be careful. Don't get her mad." I'm not worried about protecting my sister. I'm worried about, making sure you're going to be okay because she could take care of herself. Well, she could handle herself. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, and that's the thing is wrestling's also one of those sports that I think it just demonstrates the work ethic and everything of every athlete, but the girls especially get to show that off. And you see how hard they're working out there. last year I had, it's a new program. So I had 3 or 4 girls out there that had never wrestled before in their life. And they lost a match and they're devastated.
Yeah.
And I'm telling them, hey, you're just learning, but look at how passionate you are about this.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to take towards everything, every goal you set in life. And it's really a good avenue for them to just find that work ethic again. I know I said that earlier.
And I'm sure they made them work for it too. It wasn't that they just gave up or anything.
Yeah.
They made them work for it.
Yeah. And that's the thing about wrestling. It's hard to coach because you have the biggest high for one kid that just, we'll have a kid that just won state.
Yeah.
And we'll have another kid that just lost by a point to have a chance to go for a medal.
Yeah.
So your heart is breaking for one and you're jumping for joy for another. And as a coach, that's probably the thing I've learned over the 30 years. It's hard to remember that because you want to celebrate for one.
Yeah.
And you want to grieve for another, and you have to balance that. And it can be emotionally draining sometimes, especially the state tournament we have our state qualifiers the week before state. And that's where some kids find out their season's over the week before state. And that's devastating.
Oh yeah. That's got to be harsh to go ahead and go through there. But I'm sure that you celebrate as a team and you have the whole team backing up those that, and then you move on to the next one because you learn those lessons. Each match, I imagine, would be just another lesson to go like, okay, next time that this happens, like you said, there's a counter for everything. I got to think about doing this or doing that.
And the other, I think, I love coaching wrestling because of the life lessons too. And coaching it, the nice thing about wrestling is we do what are called challenge matches. So because you have weight classes, anyone that's in your weight class, they wrestle each other and the winner is varsity. The coaches don't pick who varsity is.
Okay.
I don't know who varsity is until we have our challenge matches, and it's beat the other kid 2 out of 3 times, and it's your spot.
Yeah.
And then in a couple of weeks or a week or two, the person that lost can say, Coach, I want to re-challenge.
Oh.
And they get to challenge. So we don't just say, hey, this is our varsity and this is it. No.
Like this is our varsity team and that's it for the season.
Yeah, no. we don't know. And in fact, last year we had 3 8th graders that beat out older kids. We had an 8th grader that beat out a senior, and I'm devastated for the senior, but I turned around and I had told the 8th grader, said, you are working hard and hard work is going to pay off. You keep working. And he was losing to this kid throughout the season and slowly caught up. And and then I talked to the senior and we sat in the office like, Coach, no, he goes, yeah, of course I'm upset, but I understand.
Yeah.
I had my opportunity to win. It wasn't going home, and this kid didn't go home and tell his parents, Coach doesn't like me. They knew that it was on them. It was their own personal accountability, and that was their chance. And because it's a 2 out of 3, it's not like, oh yeah, one done, you're done. No, keep trying. You got another shot. Come back tomorrow and try again.
And that's interesting. And I think that in itself is a lesson that a lot of our kids are missing these days. The idea of earning your spot. Getting that by merit. You have to work for it. And if you work hard enough, you can get your spot, and it's something that, and I know it's kind of a hot take right now, but, a lot of, I think our younger kids these days are not quite getting that idea that you've got to work to get your spot.
Yeah.
It's not handed to you.
Yeah.
We
do have a trophy for everyone type of society now. And there's positives and negatives to everything.
Yeah.
I watch youth soccer. I watch the youth sports, baseball. I helped coach when my kids were little and stuff like that. And yeah, getting the kids to enjoy the sport is great. But, there does come a time where they have to get that accountability and understand sometimes you lose.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go interview for a job and you don't get that job.
Yep.
But you better learn on why you didn't and come back for your next interview and do a better job.
So maybe it's something in the interview. Maybe it's a little bit of experience that you need to get before you move on to that next level. Maybe it's something else that you need to better yourself on. Because I am familiar with sports. I'll be honest, I played almost every sport that I can think of when I was in elementary, mid school, high school. I didn't actually play for any of the teams or anything else like that, but I played sports. I played summer baseball, played a little bit of football in my earlier school days, and found out that I am a horrible athlete. And so, I I learned really early that sports was not necessarily in my picture. Although I did hang on to baseball for a long time because I really loved that game.
Oh yeah,
and it was something that was in there. And I think it was finally, of all things, an injury on a bicycle that took me out. I ended up crashing, wrecking, and cracked my ribs, and I was like, I was done.
And that
for the
finished
season.
it. No.
And in odd coincidence, the team that year actually went on to win quite a few games and go to the championship. And so I'm an honorary member of a championship team.
Oh, there you go. That's
I was, even though I was on the IR. Yeah, exactly. But it was it's one of those things where it's a good lesson to learn for a lot of people. And I think,
and of course, I'm going to plug wrestling anytime I can. And when you say, well, I wasn't athletic, I also look for the non-athletic kids because it is a strategic sport. And, we tell the kids, you can be 120 pounds and 6 foot tall, or you can be 120 pounds and 5 feet tall. Your body styles are different, but so is wrestling. You learn to adapt and wrestle to your body style. Long, skinny gives you leverage. Short and stocky gives you something.
Gives you a little power, gives you that lower center of balance.
Yeah, and that's something where we as coaches have to adapt to the kids too and learn. And that's why I tell the kids, come give it a shot, and maybe we can find a system or a style that works for you.
As I recall, in my wrestling middle school story, that was one of the things that the coaches said, just come give it a shot, just give it a try and see how it works out and all that. And I think, like I said, at that time, I was going like, nah, I don't think I can handle it at this point in time. It was like, I think I was too busy thinking about comic books and other things at that time.
And that's a battle we fight with wrestling too, in the fact that because kids don't know much about it, and we are first. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's the location. Like I said, I grew up in Iowa, so this didn't happen. But there's not a story written about the wrestling every week like there is with basketball and football and some of the other sports. If you don't know the wrestling team, you don't know what's going on. We've had consistently finished, and we probably average in the top 5 to 7 every year at state. We've had numerous state champs. We had a kid that just was a 3-time state champ. Just the past 3 years, and but you don't hear about it that much. Sometimes we get that article at the end of the season, but
they kind of recaps everything.
That gratification, and kids are out there for glory. Yeah. And so we got to tell, and that's another thing it teaches. We tell them it's delayed gratification. You're not going to get that glory that the other sports do, but you get that inner success when you worked hard and you leave practice tired and you gave it your all. That's a feeling you can't take away.
Well, what you said is very much true, because amateur wrestling doesn't get that highlight until probably we get to the Olympics every 4 years. Well, and then all of a sudden everybody's paying attention to the wrestling. Yeah, for that day or two.
It's going to happen now, because we have this little 8th grade kid by the name of Bo Nickel that wrestled at Rio Rancho that no one knew anything about. He did move to Texas, but now that he just got signed with the UFC, people are going to know Bo Nickel. Real quick, and well, where'd he come from? Well, he's been a successful athlete since he was 8th grade.
Keep an eye out for that name, and Bo Nickel. Watch out for it. You're gonna be seeing it later on. But like I said, it doesn't get a lot of attention for that. And most of the time, when people think wrestling, they think of that professional wrestling. They're getting in the ring. They want to know when the sleeper hold comes in and when the suplex comes in, or anything else like that. Not to say that there aren't throws in wrestling, because there's some pretty cool takedowns, but it's something when you take a look at amateur wrestling. Like I said, it is very much a thinking game as well as a physical game on there. And when you start watching those matches and you start to recognize some of the things that they're doing, some of the ways that they're trying to escape, you see it more and more, actually, I think, with the popularity of the MMA when they get to the ground.
That's when they start worrying. And that's, I enjoyed MMA has helped with the popularity, but I do wish some of our athletes would get a little more recognition. Like we have an 8th grader 2 years ago, girl wrestler. She took 2nd at state as an 8th grader.
Wow.
And she only weighed 70 pounds, wrestling 100 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And now last year as a freshman, she won state. That's Alyssa Cedillo. I don't know if she's out there listening, but
throw out your names out there.
Alyssa did a great job for us. And, and here she's coming back as a returning state champ. And she has to come to a practice where we have 7 or 8 girls that have never wrestled in their life, but she's patient enough to work with them and show moves. And that shows on her character. We have we're going to have a few returning state placers on the boys side as well. We've got Orion Baca, Cash Alley, and Aiden Martinez are all returning. So we have 3 returning placers.
I've heard that name before, Cash Alley.
Cash Alley,
Yeah.
he plays football, and so he's one of the football players that we're looking forward to having come out when the season's over. But we got a lot of them that play. We had over 65 kids in our wrestling room last year, so we're one of the larger programs in the state.
That is awesome. That is amazing right there. And by the way, I apologize to Coach Benjamin. Coach Benjamin left a comment when we started, and his comment basically is, Coach Marks is the man.
Oh, thanks, Coach Benj. I'm still Coach Benj and I have a little issue going on because my son went to Cruces High, and Coach Benj never recruited my son. He was probably his freshman year, 5'6", 5'7", might have pushed 100 pounds. And then his senior year, when he was 6'5", Coach Ben's like, "Who is this guy?" I was like, "Coach, he's been here the whole time, and you never even looked at him."
Well, that growth spurt. You never know.
Yeah, and he would always tell me, "My son, tallest guy in the school, and you're not out here playing basketball."
Yeah.
So.
And well, it's
But he wasn't a basketball player too. Coach
player.
Benj was smart not recruiting him, and Jared will be the first one to say that he didn't. He wrestled when he was young, but one day coming home from a youth tournament, he just told me, "Dad, I don't like wrestling." I was like, "Oh, that's fine. You don't have to,
Okay.
And he played freshman football, and then he focused on baseball. He was a baseball player. So
there you go.
That was his love.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that growth spurt sometimes just gets you. Like one day you're looking down, the next thing you're like, "Oh, hey, how's it going up there?"
Yeah.
6'5", man.
Yeah.
That's it.
I might be exaggerating a little bit. He's up there,
He's up there. He's up there. Yeah, and Coach Benjamin, by the way, whenever you're ready, give us a call. We'll be more than ready to welcome you in as well. But right now, what does your season look like every year when you get going?
We get going here right at the beginning of November. Wrestling's a pretty intense sport, so it's a little shorter of the winter sports. We go from the first week in November to the second week of February.
Okay.
Which bodes well for the fact that I like the kids to go out for other sports. So usually we're without our fall sport athletes the first couple weeks.
Yeah.
But then our state tournament is the second week of February. So the spring sports are just starting up. So the kids are able to get out there and do that. We do host one of the largest tournaments in the Southwest. We have the Las Cruces Invite. That's December 9th and 10th this year. We try to get about 40 teams in. I always invite all the state champ teams from New Mexico. Try to get the state champion teams from Arizona to come in.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we usually get a few powerhouses from Arizona, and then, of course, all the teams from El Paso, and there's some really good programs there. So it's a really strong, powerful tournament that early on in the season, so the kids get a wake-up call, and they know, oh, this is what we have to do. It's nice. Like, usually we tell the kids, if you place at the Cruces Invite, you have a good chance of placing at state. So
that's cool.
It's there.
So are you still looking for kids to come out? And
yeah, we're always looking for kids, and we're practicing. We do a little preseason practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Once the schools are back from the break, we'll go Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is only 2 or 3 more weeks, and then the season starts. So
yeah, I'm still getting used to the new schedule. It took me like the first week of the fall break to realize the school was out again, and it was really weird to go ahead and do that. So I keep forgetting about that. You guys are actually in a break right now.
And I'm not teaching at Cruces anymore. I taught English at Cruces for 25 years and had a hospitality and tourism program that I had started there. And 5 years ago, I got a call from a former teacher at Cruces that he's the principal out at the Aztec Youth Academy, which is the school for adjudicated youth. And he says, "Would you be interested in coming out and teaching here?" And so I went out and toured the place, and I loved it. And like I said, now I'm working with the kids that do say, "I wish I had gone out for sports. I wish I would have made better choices." And so I think it fits my personality too a little bit. I love teaching at Cruces, but I was also that teacher at Cruces that usually the principal would come and say, "We got this troubled kid. Can we put him in your class?"
Wow.
And see if you can kind of make a connection. And that's what teaching and coaching is about. It's about making connections with kids and giving them that other, I use connection again, but a lot of the kids don't have the father figure or stuff like that, or we call it a solid object. I want to be a solid object in these kids' lives that they know they can come to and have some consistency.
Yeah, something that they can rely on, something that probably they haven't had anything.
And there, there's some of the kids have, great solid objects in their life, but it doesn't hurt to have another one.
Oh, no,
and
never hurts.
And there's some that need that.
I'll put it there. The more solid ground that you have to stand on, the better that your position is going to be. I'm sure could be a good wrestling philosophy.
Yeah.
If you got that solid
base. You got your solid base. Ground, that's it. You build your base and go from there.
Exactly. And so to give them a stronger base is something that I'm sure that later on they will appreciate that.
Yeah.
And do you find that a lot of those students there are very receptive to everything?
Yeah, they are. They're very receptive, and it's just a new experience to see, because you get to see kids in a different light. And I'm about making connections, and I don't know what the public school system can do about it, but when you're an English teacher and you have 7 classes of over 30 kids, you don't talk to every kid every day like you want to. You can try all you want, but you don't make the connections that you want. And where I teach now, every kid gets solid individual help, and that's great, and they notice it too.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think is that has changed, because your class sizes have gotten bigger and bigger, and it's very hard to go ahead and kind of focus on some of those students that kind of need that. Because I remember there are some teachers that I remember fondly in high school, and some that would say something that I remember to this day. I had an English teacher that one time mentioned that he just likes to look for interesting names in history so he can torture his kids later with them, and that always stuck in my mind. And so I tried it out when my son was born, and it didn't work. She was entirely opposed. She had a name picked out already, and you just have to go for it at that point in time, because you didn't do any of the work at that time, so you're not going to say anything. But yeah, it to make an effect, or have that effect in life. And then, like you said, you've been teaching for so long and coaching for so long that, I'm sure that you've come back with those kids that come back to you and say, hey, coach, well, you said this and it made such a difference in my life, or something that I remember.
Yeah,
so you get that.
That's the most rewarding thing about the profession too, is knowing that, and I think, you talk to different teachers at different levels, and you see it. Like the elementary teachers have their reward system, the middle school and the high school, and you see it. We're dealing with the young adults at the high school level, so we really focus on that success. And like you said, if one of them comes back and says, I remember when you did this. For a high school kid to remember something you said, with all the distractions.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yes.
Exactly. Yes, there's always a lot of things on a high schooler's mind that,
and I've been blessed. I was at Cruces High for 25 years. It's always been a great atmosphere. The administration that's there is awesome. They're supportive. I feel like, you can go to them anytime you want with issues, and they're on it. And it's been like that pretty consistent throughout the whole 25, 30 years that I've coached. And I have to say thank you to all of the administrators out there too, because they make the job a lot easier when you have that mutual respect.
When you have a good administration, it makes so much of a big difference on there. Because I know several teachers, and I think a friend of mine once said that a good teacher is one bad administrator away from giving it up.
Yeah. And that's, we are losing a lot of good teachers right now, and just from the atmosphere, and I think that's, you see it in every profession, not just in teaching. Everyone's reevaluated. Especially after the past couple of years with the pandemic. There's a lot of people that are going like, there's a lot of other opportunities or other things that I can take a look at that are out there, and not just, something that, because I know I did the same thing. When you're sitting there thinking, there are a lot of other important things in life that we've got to worry about and to take care of as well. Exactly.
So it's not necessarily, politics or the administration or anything else like that. Sometimes you think, there's just some things that I've got to take care of.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
I've been blessed to be able to look at my life right now and say, everything's great.
Yeah.
I love my job. I love my everything about my life right now is perfect. So
I can say this, that Coach Marks has not stopped smiling since he walked in here, and his attitude is amazing. It's very infectious. You just got to smile when you're talking about it, because I can feel the enthusiasm that you have. for your job out over there when you're
Well,
working
thank
with
you.
those kids. Well, for your coaching, for the enthusiasm that you show, for all the kids that are out there in the sports right there. It's very infectious.
Well, and I hope it is. I hope I feel that way. I when I don't love it anymore,
That's when
it's time. And everyone jokes with me because anyone that knows me, every year I say, hey, I think this is my last year. And I mean that in the sense of, as a head coach, I'm like, I'm ready to hand it off to anyone whenever. And that's another thing about the way we kind of run our room is I don't want people to know I'm the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to know this is our coaching staff at Cruces High. And every one of us, just like in the room with the kids, we all have a mutual respect for each other. And we all have something that we bring that makes all of us just as important as the other person. And so, sometimes people joke like, well, who is the head coach or who is that? It's like, no, well,
you can tell them
if you don't know, then we're doing our job right.
You can tell them that just like the students, every few weeks you guys get on the mat and you can figure out who the head coach is.
Yeah. Except I don't know. We're getting up there, like I said, getting up there in the age. That's one thing. It's a lot harder to recover from wrestling around than it was when we were younger. Yeah, Coach Bravo, I don't know. If you know Coach Bravo, he's still a beast, and sometimes we have to tell him to slow down. It's like he's the oldest one on the staff and works harder than all of us, I think. So
yeah, one face plant into the mat, and you're like, okay,
yeah, that's it.
I'm tapping out. We're done.
It's getting up for work the next day. It's like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have been showing that move yesterday.
Yeah, so. I'm sure about that. But I guess things are looking good for our wrestling at Cruces High.
Yeah, they are, and across the city, we have some good kids coming up. We're cheering on Ty Barker over at Centennials, going for another state championship. So this year is senior year, so we're looking forward to that. And that's the thing I love about wrestling too is we're competitors against each other, but we're also a family.
Yeah.
If a Mayfield or Oregon Mountain or Centennial kid calls and says, hey, is there someone I can work out with this weekend? The wrestlers, they work out with each other on the down low, in the off season and stuff. But it's they all go to the gyms, they find places to work out, and that's what it takes to be success
I was like, we got to keep the kayfabe.
Right there.
It's like all the schools hate each other viciously.
Yeah, that's it.
That's right. They never work
together. They know, and the kids know. Like, I mean, it's intense, and I don't want to lose to any of them. We're riding a five-year undefeated in district duels streak, and it's like, you guys, I do not expect to ever lose a district duel again, and you guys better understand that. I don't care how friendly we are with them. We're going.
Well, that's the thing. And it's not just. I think in all the sports, you'll find that a lot of the athletes, actually do get along. They all hang out. They'll do some different things like that. But when you get onto the field, you get onto the court, you get onto that mat. It's like, you get business done, and then it's like, hey, I'll see you next Saturday. And
I think that's a lesson for the kids to learn too, because it is fun to have that hated rivalry, but it's also good for the kids to know that there's competitiveness that doesn't have to have hatred behind it.
Oh no, absolutely.
If you have the competitiveness and the respect for each other, I think you're going to be a lot more successful.
And every once in a while, like I said, maybe it's kind of behind the scenes, but every once in a while you'll see it come out more into the public, and you've probably seen that more with the situation with Abe Romero. And how all of the schools and all the students have pulled over because kind of support Abe and his family, and that's great. My heart breaks for the Romero family, and just and having kids that played sports too. I see just you always have that fear, whether you want to admit it or not. You never want anything like that to happen, and it's so unfortunate. And it's such a kind of a freak thing to kind of just happen like that. But like I said, you see everybody and all of the schools and all the sports, pull together to help support that family and everybody in the community, which is one of the reasons I've loved Las Cruces. I moved here 27 years ago. And I think this community, when they're asked to pull together, they pull together. And it's pretty amazing. Exactly. I came here to go to NMSU, and I haven't left, and I don't ever plan on leaving. That's not an uncommon story. That we'll hear a lot of athletes that go to NMSU. A lot of athletes that'll come down here for different sports, and all of a sudden, they meet someone, they get married, they've got family down here, and next thing you know, they could have been from anywhere from Alaska to, Maine, and all of a sudden, they're making their home here in
Yeah.
the Southwest, because it's just one of those towns. It's one of the reasons that I love it. And as far as sports go, if you're a sports fan, this is a great place to be.
Yeah, it is. And, and I hope that sports aspect spills over to just everyday life too. Cause like I said,
Yeah.
there's tragic things happening with our youth every day. And maybe they don't play sports, but we need to, focus on those kids too, and recognize everything, and, I just, with our profession, we see the youth, and every teacher looks at their class and says, that's our future, and we need to keep that community spirit and attitude alive.
And like I said, with a lot of kids, you see some of the things that they do and some of the things that happen, and you kind of think to yourself, what, I think our future is pretty good.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we hear a lot of the negative.
We do hear a lot of the negative, and
there's some amazing kids out there doing amazing things. I see the kids that have been at the fair this past weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Just the hard work those kids put forward, and that's that's why I say do everything. I love when I had a wrestler that he'd be at wrestling practice. Coach, I got to go show my goats. I got to do this. Like, all right, you go do what you got to do.
And that's one of the things. Once again, is that enthusiasm that you have right there, and that's one of the things that I loved about the Southern New Mexico State Fair, because when you go see some of the exhibits and you go see the animals that these kids have worked hard on, and you see all that, because it is a fair, and that if these kids, they work hard to show their animals. Actually, I wish I would have been able to maybe talk to someone about that, because you can consider that a sport, raising an animal, and the stuff that they do. I'm actually hoping maybe we can get some of the NMSU rodeo guys in here and talk with them about some stuff too. But yeah, that is something that's really, really cool to see a lot of these kids out there. And like I said, or like you said, you hear a lot of the negative things. You'll hear some of the weird things that make those stories, those little weird news stories or something else like that. But overall, you feel good when you are personally interacting with a lot of, especially in the position that you're in where you're teaching, that you think, these kids are going to be good, and that we're going to be okay. So, well, I know you say that the wrestling doesn't get a lot of attention, but whenever you feel that need for attention, just give us a call up. We'll have you come on. We'll give us some updates on how the season's going. Maybe get a few more names or some prize names that'll come up.
I'm hoping I have a long list of names for you, because that's what we're looking for. A lot of success this year, and I really appreciate you guys having me on tonight. And I could go on forever with the kids we have in our program now, the kids we used to have in the program, the coaches. I still go to Coach Harrison, who coached at Cruces for years, for advice. I was like, Coach, what should I do here? And
the thing is, the stories I'm sure that you have about certain things, and we didn't really get into that too much this time. We'll put it that way. Yeah. But, I'm sure that you've got some great stories, road stories, or different stories about certain athletes, certain competitions, or certain things that come up, certain memories that'll stick into your brain about some of the athletes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely. We have nicknames for kids that I see them and I can't remember their name. Still remember their nicknames. Yeah.
Okay. I'll ask this one question. What's the weirdest or strangest nickname or funniest nickname that you had for some of the kids?
I don't know. I don't know if I can put a couple of them on air, but no, we had one guy, we called him Stick because he was tall and skinny. We had Krusty, who he come with the crust in his eyes.
Because he just woke up.
And he was just all business, and it's funny because a lot of them, we would see the kids when they were freshmen coming into football, and we'd start giving them the nicknames then, because we have all these kids, you don't know who they are. So, hey, you Krusty, come here, stuff like that. and the kids love it.
But you earn your nickname.
Yeah, right? You earn your nickname.
You earn your nickname for sure.
Yeah, there's a few that are interesting, but
well, next time we'll come and maybe we'll delve deeper into some of those stories.
I know. Like Coach Bravo is our best nickname giver. He's got Little Chicken is one of our girls now. He's got a few other ones that some people are like, I can't believe you say that, but it's good nature, fun, and the great nicknames that fit the kids perfect, and they love it. And so.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Like I said, you probably got a ton of stories that we can get into, and we'll get into those maybe next time.
Yeah, anytime that I'm available, I'd be glad to come out. This is great, great atmosphere, and I'm glad I waited till this time of the year to come, because it's nice and cool right now. I'm enjoying this fall weather. So.
I say it all the time that Cruces has some great weather, and this time of year we're doing it in the evenings. We may, now that sun is going down a little bit earlier, we may have to maybe bring a few extra lights out here. for our podcast. But so far, so good right now. But out here on the patio at the Amador Live, it is really, really cool. And of course, they do a lot of events here at the Amador Live. But to be out here on the patio on a nice, cool evening like this, like I said, we thought it was going to rain, but it is a gorgeous evening.
Yeah.
Maybe those clouds up there.
Yeah, I see them down by
I see
El
them
Paso,
rolling in. Yeah, I see them rolling in. And maybe by the time we get out of here, we'll be cool. But yeah, just to come out on the patio, and I would encourage anybody to come out here. We're here every Tuesday, 6 o'clock. Come on out.
Yep.
You know, we got
an
extra mic
venue.
and extra camera. You can ask some questions of the coaches or anything else if you want to. But thanks a lot, Coach, for coming by. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you. And I want to end with reminding people we do have the Cruces Invite on December 9th and 10th. If people want to come see what wrestling's about, largest tournament in the Southwest, over 40 teams. The girls will have an individual tournament on the 10th, also at Cruces High. So the boys and girls will be competing that Friday and Saturday.
Well, maybe we'll have you come in a little bit after that if you can to maybe give us an update on how that tournament went.
Yeah, I'd be glad to do that.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot to Coach Marks, Las Cruces wrestling coach, boys and girls wrestling coach. And like I said, your season gets started in November, so you got to start getting ready for stuff real quickly here. But thanks to Coach for coming out, and we'll have you step away, and we're going to see if we can get our commissioner Kelly in here to talk, give us a little update on our fantasy football this weekend, so that we can get a quick update. He's our commissioner of our fantasy football league. We have a fantasy football league going on right now. Here's the thing, and I have to tell everybody this because it's a punishment league. The loser. Are you ready for this? I love to see the reactions. Actually, move in a little bit closer. I got to get your reaction on camera here.
Yeah.
All right.
Come in.
Okay. What's the loser?
Okay. The loser has to take the SATs with the students, and whatever score they get, that's get placed on their trophy.
Oh.
So $100 a team. The winner gets to pick where the $1,200 goes to a local charity.
Oh, awesome.
But the loser has to go in and take either the SAT or ACT with the high school kids. And that's what that score and your team name and your name goes on the trophy.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe I'll join.
Well,
I had pretty good luck with the ACT and SAT,
Okay.
so I don't know if I still have the brain cells I had, I might be all right.
Remember, that's only if you come in last.
Only if you
Only
come in last.
Only if you come in last. Yeah.
Just
Only
win
if
it
you
and
come
then
last.
give the money away.
Yeah, there you go. That's
I'd be glad to do that too.
Well, we'll make sure to catch you next season.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Coach, for coming in. Kelly, slip on in here because I just wanted to get a quick update on our league. We have Commissioner Kelly.
That's right.
Okay, and first off, congratulations, sir. You are no longer winless.
Off the schneid.
Up there. Yep, you did. You had a good weekend.
Well, high point score for the week.
Yeah.
So, just going to say, I told you that I had been a victim of what I would refer to as legitimate bad luck.
Yes.
And I'm gonna give you some numbers here, and I
Okay.
want you to tell me.
I love numbers.
I'm gonna ask you what you think.
Okay.
So, in our league,
Mhm.
as of week 4,
Mhm.
only we have there's totals. Points for, which are the points that you've scored. Points against, which are the teams you've played, how much they've scored.
They've scored against you. Yeah.
Correct. There are only 2 teams that have over 500 points scored against them.
Okay.
Ed
Yeah.
has 503 scored against him, and I have 580 scored against me. For example, Andrew Palmer, who's tied for first with you, has only had 355. So if you go to standings, up there, so
I'll show you the screen here in a second. Right here, I was just pulling it up.
Yeah. So if you go there, you'll see that I have literally had 225 more points scored against me than he has.
Yeah.
So if we discuss records, I will say that occasionally you can be a byproduct of good fortune.
Indeed.
So, but I'm telling you, I'm back. It's on. There's no undefeated teams.
There are no undefeated teams.
It's 3 and
I was
Justin and Max are tied for first in the East.
Mm-hmm.
You and Drew are tied for first in the West.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a bunch of 2 and 2 teams and 1 and 3. And I'm just gonna say that I'm feeling good.
Well,
where I am.
We were saying last week that it's early in the season.
Of course.
You know, you still have time to turn things around. There's still the opportunities there. And I knew myself I wasn't going to go undefeated for the season. And what was upsetting me the most is that at one point in time, I had more points on my bench than I had on my starters. And it was a little bit disturbing for me, a little bit. Now, eventually, a few of my starters did end up showing up. I had a great defensive weekend with the 49ers. And Cooper Kupp once again showed up. How did I know that I was going to pull Tom Brady out for my starting quarterback and he's going to go off at 25? So, you know, one of those things.
Listen, that's half of the fun and half of the battle.
Absolutely.
Because you literally, you know, you sit there and you go, I played Kirk Cousins everywhere.
Yeah.
I played him everywhere. And then Brady just dumps 25 out there. Although I will say you did get a fortuitous point output from San Francisco.
Yes. They have been underperforming, and that's why we had that conversation about, do I stay steady with my defense? Because, you know, at one point in time, San Francisco's defense was number one in the league. Of course, that was last year. And they have been underperforming as far as some of their projections go. And then all of a sudden this week, man, they turned it on, and I was very, very happy about that. And it is one of those things where, you know, it's why you play the game. You never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to have that thing. You know, who would have known? I feel sorry for Lindsay's team because Dak. No. You had Dak.
I have Dak.
You had Dak. And Dak goes out first game of the season. So what are you going to do?
No, exactly. Like that's my point. It's a long season, and we, you know, Lindsay did have a rough go. She got beat by 133 points.
Yep.
So that's got to be that's a record.
We were comparing points yesterday afternoon, and I told her, I said, look, I've got two more players to go. I had Cooper Kupp and the Niners defense going at it, and it was one of those things where if Cooper does well, he's taking points away from my defense. If my defense does well, then they're probably shutting Cooper down. So it's like I'm in a no-win situation on a Monday Night Football game. No. However, Cooper
you have the best of both.
I had the best of both worlds on that night, and it made my score respectable.
Now it's getting into the heyday of really trying to, you know, evaluate where you are, evaluate how to get better, make a couple moves. Don't be afraid to, you know, pull the trigger and let some things happen. So it'll be real interesting to see. I picked up the guy that you dropped. So you dropped one. You dropped Cam Akers, and I picked him up. So I'm gonna hold on to him. I
had really good hopes for him, but for the first 4 weeks he wasn't doing that. And I picked up Dobbs, and he had a really good week this week. I didn't have him in my starters, but he had a pretty good week. So I feel like I'm pretty good for that. But you know, if Akers does well for you overall, then that's okay.
We'll like you know, I mean, what it boils down to is lottery tickets.
Yeah,
is that you're just sitting there, kind of trying to figure out, and you know, there's not a ton of talent anywhere on the waiver wire. No. I mean, I'm legit right now. I'm legitimately debating on whether or not I should drop. I'm gonna wait until about Saturday and figure out if I'm gonna drop Dak, because I had Dak, and now it's time to
well, can't you keep Dak on the IR?
Well, I have another player that has moved to the IR, so Cordell Patterson, who has been fantastic for me, by the way. And so he's moving to the IR, so I'm going to put him in there. And I just think you know my position, that I think you can stream quarterbacks and defenses.
Yep.
And I literally picked up a quarterback this week. I picked up Jared Goff, and he just happened to go out and give me 33 points.
Nice.
So I just think that you can sit there at times and go, I'll cycle through some spots and figure it out.
We have a 12 league team, or we have a 12-team league. So there are opportunities there for you, unless somebody's just sitting on a few players that on their roster. I'm not going to mention anyone who has 3 defenses on their roster, but you know that.
Who would even know? Who would even know? Would you even know he owns this place? No one would know.
No one would know. No one would know that somebody by the name.
But it's exciting. Let's see here. Okay, so going into week 5, here are the games. Oh, guess who I have week 5?
I don't know. Who do you
Max.
have? Oh, that'll be.
So I've got Max. So I'm excited. He's won 3 in a row.
He has.
He has my quarterback.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bust him up. It's going to happen.
You get it done, man.
It's going to be, it's going to happen. I'm there.
I have to encourage you because, we were giving you so much grief, all the time because you didn't win a game or anything else like that.
0-3.
Yeah, 0-3. But things can turn around. I might go on a losing streak, my dear. I might lose my next 3 games.
Oh,
you never know.
So you actually play Team Bradford. I said I was the high point. I was not the high point. Quade's team scored 187 points. So that's who you've got this week.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me about that. Yeah, that's encouraging for this week.
It's you never know. There's a battle of, let's see here. Sean is 1-3 and plays Justin Walk. Walkie's been a powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And Lindsay's in a good spot.
She's
although she needs to make a couple of moves, but she's got Amber's team.
I got to remind her to sign in and check on her team. I said to do that on Thursday morning.
Wants to. If you want to take the ACT, then you do that.
Okay.
So it's Max at 3-1 versus me at 1-3.
Mm-hmm. Ed
versus JR, a battle of 2-2s.
Yep.
Walkie at 3-1 versus Sean at 1-3. It's a big game for Sean. He needs this.
Yeah.
Lindsay versus Amber, a battle. I think that whoever loses that matchup is going to be in the don't lose seat.
Yeah. They're going to be in that
spot
position.
Yes,
yeah,
they'll be in.
They're going to be in the spot. They're going to be in the spot.
We'll call it the spot.
We'll call it the spot from now on. Yeah.
And then you've got Quade. This is another big week for him. And then Andrew and Lance, 3-1, 2-2. It'll be an interesting week. If I sneak out another win, I'm telling you, it's game by game, week by week, and it's the best that you can do. But I would highly recommend that everyone kind of hit the waiver wire. There's a couple of interesting guys out there. I do think we're extraordinarily deep at quarterback there.
I think so.
And then the running back game it seems to be 3 guys at the top of that list that are taking over for injured players.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and the thing about that is that they'll probably get the touches, and we'll see how they perform.
The highest projected guys on the waiver wire are actually tight ends. And you said that you were worried about tight ends, so you might need to get out there and get to investing.
I have a tight end and I have a running back problem because I ended up with way too many wide receivers.
Okay.
And so I've got some good wide receivers that are sitting on my bench.
But I'm going to tell you this much. If you have a good tight end, you don't need a backup.
No.
You really just, for a bye week, you will have to fill in. But
that's the bye week, and you're going to end up with those bye weeks that you're just going to have to deal with those.
100%.
But right now, I think my running back position, because I have 3 running backs, and 2 of them are not very good. And so that was the other thing that I was going to look for.
Hey, I've got a ton of running backs. So.
Do you?
Hey, dial it up, take a look, let me know, and then next week we'll discuss the trade that we made brought us both.
Yeah, they brought
us both back.
Okay, I will definitely take a look at that. I usually start taking a look at what's available and what we got by Wednesday. Because that's usually when you're really going to see who's up on the waivers and what's available. But
no, we will see what's up on the waivers. I highly recommend it. I'm telling you, the biggest game this week is Sean Brownfield. He really needs a bounce back week and needs to get to 2-3 as bad as anyone. So I'm gonna put it out there, and then I'll sign off because I know we ran a little bit. So
that's okay. That's fine. So that's our game of the week.
Game of the week is Sean Brownfield bouncing back. He took a huge vacation, was on a cruise, had a blast. He's coming back reinvigorated, and trust me, that he bounces back this week.
He bounces back this week. Okay, we'll keep an eye on that game. Thanks, Commissioner Kelly, for keeping us updated on our fantasy football league. And once again, it is a punishment league, so we're going to find out who's going to be getting their name on that trophy and what kind of score they will get. And more than likely, we're going to be able to go ahead and get that, hopefully, on camera so that we can see them walking in to that test and get their feelings as they're walking out. But that just about does it once again for another Mesilla Valley News Sports podcast. Once again, we'll be back here next week at 6 o'clock, as always, out here on the patio at the Amador Live Eatery and Entertainment District right in here So come on out if you can. Lots of great events coming up. In fact, this week, I know that the Amador Live has Paul McCartney Thursday night. It is the Live and Let Die tribute, symphonic tribute to Paul McCartney. You know, we had conductor Lonnie Klein coming in and kind of crash our podcast last week when we were with Mario, but that's coming up this Thursday night. I know they've got Bone Thugs coming up this week as well, and they're going to be out here on the Amador patio live. So yeah, tickets are still available. You can go ahead over to amadorlive.com/events, and that way you can go ahead and pick up your tickets, or go ahead and maybe stop by and ask them how you can go ahead and get tickets to that event, and a whole bunch of others that are going to be coming up here. It's a great place to hang out, and of course, you can always come for the Broken Spoke Tap House and get a beverage or two, or some great food. They have great food out here. You cannot underestimate how good the food is. In fact, I was enjoying a chicken quesadilla earlier today, and that was delicious. So once again, you can come out over here, enjoy all the great events at the Amador Live, and we will be back again next week, 6 o'clock, as we are every Tuesday evening with our Mesilla Valley News Sports podcast. So until then, enjoy your week, my friends, and we'll see you next week.